Hello, and a very warm welcome to one and all present here. Today, this is Laksh Mittal, your host for today, joining in from India for another exciting episode of Deeping Dive into Web3 with a twist, and that is investments. Our vision at Recorem is pretty simple. Okay, we want to onboard a million of enthusiastic users to the Web3 evolution, and that is why we bring to you this one of a kind masterclass series, Deeping Dive into Web3 with featuring investment companies. The world is heading towards a very connected and very interlinked ecosystem where various industries are trying to come in together and work towards a very sustainable development related goal. That's where blockchain also comes in. Blockchain and the technology behind it actually helps lots of industries to come in together to work in a very decentralized way where it gives the power to the people, to the community to own assets, to become a stakeholder, to give back to the community. But before we get started with this masterclass of ours today, let me tell you about in a simple statement how and what does Recorem do. Okay, um, Web3 is basically a new type or new age internet and is meant for everyone and anyone who wishes to be a part of a transparent, efficient, and autonomous ecosystem. This is where Recorem steps in and helps candidates, attendees from across the globe, okay, to discover Web3 opportunities through communities, through conferences, through bigger events, okay. In a similar fashion, our main goal is for helping startups, for helping companies in the Web3 space, in the blockchain space, to get to hire beyond job boards. That's where we come in. So putting it in in a simple statement, Recurum connects Web3 companies to Web3 professionals and enthusiasts from various communities and events from beyond job boards. Today we have more than 80 plus companies hiring on our platform. Okay, we also recently hosted the Consensus Job Fair, and with that, we'd like to also, let you know that with all the events that are coming in, definitely there is no less opportunities that are present there in the market. But definitely, if you are looking for something, do come on to Recurum and find your opportunities here. With that, okay, here's my day where I call the speaker for today. He is basically a person who leads venture management at one of the esteemed accelerators across the globe. Okay, that's Blockchain Founders Group. And here I have Jong here with me today. Okay, who is a venture manager at BFG. Hey Jong, how are you doing?
Hey, Lakshya, thanks for having me. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Amazing. So like, let's start with this. How has your weekend been? Okay, and where are you currently based out of? How has your time been going?
Yeah, exactly. So, my name is JC, or you can call me Chong as well. I'm currently
Okay,
based in Seoul, South Korea, but
okay,
it hasn't been very long that I've moved to South Korea. I was born and raised in Germany, but decided to move to South Korea last year because of private reasons. Fortunately, my workplace allowed me to work remotely, so it didn't really matter whether I stay in Germany or in Korea. And yeah, that's where I am. I recently
okay,
came back from ETH Global Tokyo, which was really nice place to be because I met many great founder teams, many great people building in the Web3 space, and made some really good connections. The energy was amazing. 1,500 builders in one space working on the future of decentralized finance. This was really, really great. And I think you also were traveling quite a bit, right? You just came back
right,
from Consensus.
correct. Yeah, that's definitely that. Like, that we had like an amazing experience at Consensus. Okay, you won't believe like the hustle around there, the type of people. I guess almost somewhere it's equal around every bigger event that happens across the globe, right? Let it be an event from ETH or Binance or even the Bitcoin community, correct? And there's something which is very common which I have seen, that it's like you usually tend to meet the same people all across different events, and but the bonding, the type of collaborations that continue ahead becomes more stronger with every event going passing by, correct? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think I can completely agree with you. I mean, I also tend to see faces on a recurring basis. I think these are the super networkers who really try to get
Exactly.
on the ground with the builders, with protocols, with investors, with stakeholders in the Web3 ecosystem. I think that's really something very uh, very good, right? You
No,
just
no,
need
definitely.
connections, even if you are saying that Web3 is decentralized, everyone can work remote. In the end, what matters most is trust, talking one on one, face to face in real life with people. I think this is something that cannot be replaced by anything.
No, definitely no. I am in full agreement with that. But here's some interesting thing I want to talk to you about. Why don't you tell us about how did you come like what made you join this whole industry? Okay, what was that turning point, or what was that one instance in life that brought you in this industry? Okay,
Yeah,
and definitely how did you end up being basically a part of blockchain founders group? So let's
right.
go with that.
Yeah, I can try, right? So I think I had my first touch point with Web3 by buying some Bitcoins or fractions of Bitcoins, some Satoshis in I think 2019 or 22. So I was kind of a late bloomer. My friend told me about this one friend that he has that he bought some Bitcoin and then he got rich, and I got curious, right? So I just bought a Ledger Nano X. I actually got the Moon edition, and then yeah, I bought some Satoshis, right? But then it
Okay.
just stayed there in my ledger. I didn't do anything with it. And then after I finished my studies, which was public policy, I majored in public policy from
Okay.
the Hertie School in Germany and also from the University of Tokyo in Japan. And then
Right.
after graduation, I was wondering what should I do. I was thinking about maybe going into consultancies, public sector consultancies. But then a friend of mine, he suggested trying with the Frankfurt School Blockchain Center, which is one of the
Okay.
premier think tanks around DLTs, digital euro, crypto assets in Germany. And then I applied, I got in, and that's where I met Professor Philipp Sandner, who is also sometimes called the crypto pope in Germany. And by coincidence, he is also board member of the Blockchain Founders Group, and that's where I could try out working for a VC investor startup incubator
Okay.
for the first time. And I did that for a couple of months, and I liked it so much that I really wanted to do this on a full time basis.
Oh,
So
okay.
since I think now around 2 years, I've been working with Blockchain Founders Group, and I think I'm very happy with my decision.
Definitely, like I totally agree with that. Why is that? Because there is some points in life when that you're going in the right direction. You know that what you're doing. You love what you're doing, and that's where I feel I have the similar mindset as well. Working with Recorem has been an amazing experience in the past 1 year. Okay, and I totally agree with your ideology as well. But you mentioned that there was this something that kept you going in the space, right? Like the venture capitalist thing you really loved about. Okay,
Yeah,
so why don't you tell us about what is that one thing that made you first initially join venture capitalist company? Okay, like Blockchain Founders Group, because see, because as much as I know, becoming a part of a VC into investments, it's a very it requires a lot. Okay, a lot of effort to be in there in that space, correct? So accordingly, I would want to know that
yeah,
what has been your part around it, and would love to know
yeah.
your story behind that.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think what I really like about Blockchain Founders Group, it's at the intersection between startup incubation,
Okay.
early stage funding, and of course Web3. All these three things make it a very special place for me where I can engage on a day-to-day basis with builders, with founders that really have grand visions, and I really want to help them bring those vision into reality. And I think
Okay.
it's just really nice talking to founders because they have a special energy around them. I think, I
Correct.
guess, in a sense, you are also a founder. You have
Yeah.
a very, very big energy. You have very big ambitions, and it's just really nice talking to these kind of people, right? Talking
Hmm,
about
definitely.
business models, talking about the way to go forward, how to do sales, how to implement marketing best practices, how to approach fundraising. These kind of topics are, I think, all sciences or all big research topic in
Correct.
itself, right? But I think
Correct.
working in venture capital, working in a startup incubator, really makes you apply these kind of fields with a hands-on approach, right? It's very
Right.
practical.
Right.
You cannot spend too much time on doing research and trying to write a 30-page research paper. You just don't have the time. You just don't have the resources, right? So the best
Correct.
way moving forward is actually trying out, trial and error, and really talking with people, with mentors, with advisors to, uh, yeah, advance on a step-by-step basis. So
Correct. Correct.
every day I learn something new.
Definitely. And with that, I've somewhere felt that everyone has a similar how should I say it, game ball inside their head. Everyone wants to solve problems. Everyone wants to do something for the community or the society. There's always a problem solving mindset or doing good, like goodwill around that. And that's where I feel that it's like the vibrations, like the mindset actually resonates with each and everyone. And that's where I guess people like you and me come into this whole scenario, right? But totally, with that, why don't you tell me more about, what is the Blockchain Founders Group? Okay, what is it more about? Does it focus towards early stage companies only, or like what is the whole, procedure if a person who's wanting to, basically apply to Blockchain Founders Group? What
Yeah,
are the best ways they can go ahead with? Let's start with all of these things.
yeah. So maybe if I can start, Blockchain Founders Group has been around since 2021, so we are
Okay.
not that old. I mean, in a sense, you could argue that we ourselves are a startup ourselves, right? But we
Yeah.
are basically a VC investor investing in early stage startups in the Web3 space, based out
Correct.
of Germany. And we are also running our startup incubation program called BFG Superstars. And
Oh.
how this usually works is we receive around 1,000 founder applications per year. And out of these
Mm-hmm.
1,000 founder applications, we have at the end of the funnel, at the end of the program per year, around 15 to 20 pre-seed investments. So we
Correct.
do have a very strict selection mechanism in place to really identify the most promising startup teams, right? With a very big focus on the founder market fit. So is the founder the right fit with the program? Does he show hustler mentality? Can he execute these kind of stuff? Because this is especially important in early stages, right? Because you don't have any
Correct.
sort of numbers that can back the financial viability of the startup. You don't have any
Right.
cash
Yeah. Yeah.
flow yet. You are pre-revenue. You are pre-product. So you need to basically have a very good guts feeling, I guess,
Right.
with who you want to work together with, and that's why we place a huge focus on the founders. Yeah,
Okay.
but basically the focus area that we have is things like DeFi, NFTs, analytics, DAO
Mm-hmm.
tools, metaverse. So basically, really anything that has any sort of touch points with blockchain, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that can be also started with, uh, yeah, quite quickly, right? So we don't require our startups to have a huge R&D team, huge upfront capital expenses in like foundational research things, right? We wanna launch our startups fast,
Okay.
grounded on validated market hypothesis, validated by good customer discovery, things like that, right? So this also includes like topics such as zero knowledge technology,
Mm-hmm.
oracles, yeah, anything really that is on trend, but at the same time proves to be a sustainable business model, right? Because you only always have the tension in Web3. Is it a just a very short-lived narrative that we're talking about, or is this narrative something that has future potential, long-term future and sustainable potential? This is always that you yeah, need to think about deeply, I think, in the Web3 space.
Correct. Correct. No, I totally agree with that. But there are I've actually met a lot of accelerators and incubators. We ourselves have been part of 2 to 3 accelerators like Foundership, Startup Edmonton, and currently Plug and
Interesting.
Play as well, right? So I have seen this slight. I don't know, maybe a USP kind of thing that every accelerator has, right? Like some focus only on DeFi and NFT, some focus only on, let's take early stage founders, some focus only on infrastructure based models, or something like some focus totally towards metaverse, right? So is there any specific ground which the BFG team works on, or like is focusing on as of now?
Yeah, thanks for the great question. I think we actually don't. We are really location agnostic, right? So anyone in the world can apply to Blockchain Founders Group, BFG Superstars Incubation Program. So we have startup teams based in the UK, operating in Nigeria, founded in Delaware in the US, or in
Mm-hmm.
Mumbai, actually also in India. So
Okay.
we are location agnostic. In terms of like Web3 verticals, we are agnostic as well, right? But I think
Okay.
looking back, this was not really intentioned, but we have maybe two big areas, focus areas where startup teams have created some good startups, right? One is the
Mm-hmm.
topic of ESG, right? Environment,
Okay.
social, and
Yeah,
governance.
yeah.
And the other one is, I guess, financial inclusion, right? Just to give you an example or an idea in what kind of startups we invest, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one is called Particular. It's a team based in Munich, in Germany, and they are building
Mm-hmm.
basically the Moody's or the Bloomberg for ESG tokens, right? Because
Oh,
the key hypothesis is really that in the near future, carbon credits, for instance, or
yeah.
ESG credits more generally, will become commoditized like oil.
Yeah.
So you will have different
Yeah, yeah.
qualities, you will have different tranches, you will have a whole ecosystem around uh, ESG tokens as well
Correct,
in the
correct.
near future, right? So they are building basically a holistic database with a huge focus on compliance matters, risk assessment, regulatory information, because they found out that SMEs or enterprises, when they want to buy carbon credits, for instance, the biggest question mark is always on the regulatory side of things, right?
Right.
So they're building this particular, so the Moody's or Bloomberg for ESG tokens. Maybe one example in the financial inclusion camp, we have their MeCash. Uh,
Okay.
Built by Modupe and Busola, based in UK with Nigerian roots, and they're building a cross-border payments infrastructure for
Okay.
SMEs in Africa. The problem here
Nice.
is that SMEs in Africa, for instance, in Nigeria, they are importing many goods from Southeast Asia or China. But when
Correct.
they want to pay for these goods, right, up to 24% of the transaction volume goes to intermediaries because of high transaction fees, right? You have intermediaries in Dubai, you have the North American route, so there are intermediaries left and right. So they want to build basically a platform with on and off ramps through which you can basically convert fiat to crypto and vice
Okay.
versa. So this is going to be, I think, a very future leading
Mm-hmm.
product. Yeah.
No, definitely. I guess both of the sectors that both the companies actually focusing on are something which is a little futuristic. Okay, they possibly would be more how should I say it, in daily use for probably 3 to 5 years down the line. Okay, where more companies try to come in, more companies try to incorporate the whole ESG and carbon credit uh, matter, because somewhere I guess all governments are also trying to work around the same thing, where they're trying to reduce carbon footprint of individual countries, and that's where mostly businesses also come in there. Correct. So definitely both the things look very interesting to me. But with that, why don't you tell me, are there any specific things that, let's take, a founder should look into, okay, while applying to BFG? Okay, are there any specific terms? Are there any specific, like checkpoints that they need to, look into? Because usually different kinds of accelerators have their own different kind of criterias correct? And you mentioned one of those, right? Like where if the founder is market fit or not, correct? So with that, why don't you? Are there any other specific checkpoints which other founders can look into?
I mean, generally, generally we like founders who are self-starters, who are
Right.
very proactive, who have understood the power of marketing and sales, right? Because there are certain founder types who are not really keen on going out, doing like stand-ups, going to pitch events, going to networking
Mm-hmm.
events. Not many, not really outgoing, right? But I think you need to have this gene. You have to have this sales mentality 24/7, 365.
Correct.
Um, at the same time, we like founders who have hustler mentality, right? Who really want to see things through. Doesn't matter what's coming, right? um,
Mm-hmm.
who are hardworking, who are believing in the
Correct.
projects, and who are also reaching out to partners in the ecosystem. Other than this, right? It's really hard to assess founders if they only submit a application form, right? You can look at his
Correct.
CV, but this doesn't tell you the whole story. So that's why we also, after doing a very detailed pre-screening, right? We also engage in one-on-one quick interviews
Correct.
with every applicant, a potential founder, right? So where we
Okay.
want to see the fit between what the founder is looking for in the accelerator or in the incubator, but where we also see the fit uh, between the program goals and the founder mentality. So we do engage in interviews as well. And then after the
Correct.
interview, we do another round of selection. And then we have 2 weeks of a so called warm up phase. And in this warm
Mm-hmm.
up phase, we engage in some case studies. And at the same time, we also teach you one or two things about like market validation and startup entrepreneurship. But these 2 weeks are really there for us to see whether there's a fit between Blockchain Founders Group, BFJ Superstars program, and the founder. Because then we can see by evaluating how fast they react, whether they are coachable,
Mm-hmm.
by the way of communication, whether there is a fit, right? Yeah.
Oh, no, okay, amazing. So basically, if I put these into similar pointers, is you're looking for startups which can actually run businesses. Okay, founders having that mentality of getting or reaching profitability, or possibly running a proper cyclic business with proper sales and like demand and supply in a sustainable manner, with the
Yeah, I
mentality
think
of growing and scalability as well. Correct.
Yeah, I think these are all part of it, right? I mean,
Correct.
we need to highlight that we are focusing on early stage startups, right? So
Right.
for we cannot wait for them to prove that they are sales geniuses, right?
Exactly.
But we
Yeah.
want to see that there's a potential, and
Exactly.
we can assess the potential by looking at coachability, whether they can, yeah, even after they fail, iterate fast and come up with a solution and
Mm-hmm.
improve on their past experiences, whether they can collect
Right.
actionable data and act based on the data that they've collected. So, this kind of quick thinking, pragmatism is something that we want to see.
Okay. Okay. I guess I have a distinct knowledge around how the you know whole procedure with blockchain founders group might work. Okay, and I really feel with what input you have given, possibly the viewers and the founders who would be looking at this would have a discrete understanding on the application process as well as the interview process and what they can expect from your end as well, right? But let's dive back into the place where you are working as a venture manager, right? So why don't you tell us about how does your day look like, right? And if anyone who's willing to become a venture manager, possibly in their coming months or years, okay, in their career, how should they start, okay, and where should they apply? What does it look like to be a venture manager?
Right. I will first start with how my day to day
Yeah.
operations look like. But I think I need to say that this is very seasonal. The
Okay.
Because we are working in cohorts, we are offering the 3 months incubation cohort twice per year. One is
Mm-hmm.
starting in March, the other one is starting in September. So depending on in which month and at what stage of the incubation program we are looking at, my job is also changing a little bit. So during the application phase, I'm really obsessed about identifying good founder teams. I scroll through LinkedIn. I
Mm-hmm.
start with some outreach campaigns, right? All sorts of things, reaching out to networks, reaching out to universities or to news
Right.
outlets, right? And try to get as many good founders notice Blockchain Founders Group and BFG Superstars program. Then after the application phase, I'm really yeah uh, really working a lot on screening applications, right? Trying to assess who might be a good fit, who might not be a good fit, taking
Correct.
interviews with them, right? And then during the program, um, yeah, I'm engaging in like regularly one-on-one calls with the startup teams, yeah, trying to help them as good as possible, right? So we are offering workshops with external guest speakers, where we do some tasks and some keynotes on, for instance, fundraising best practices, marketing best practices, tokenomics, how to build a community in Web3, stuff like this, right? And yeah, this is basically how we operate for 3 months. And by the end
Okay.
of the 3 months, startup teams that survive the incubation program have the
Mm-hmm.
chance to pitch in front of the investment committee, right?
Okay.
Um, and the investment committee is basically the board of directors at Blockchain Founders Group. And then we, together with our recommendation, also make the investment decision. And then after the
Right.
investment decision comes, we help the startup teams with the legal setup. So providing with some templates on how to set up a legal entity to also reduce you know, legal costs with very
Correct.
expensive lawyers. And then
Mm-hmm.
um, and then we continue with the post program support as well. So usually we set up a weekly call with all startup teams individually, right? Separate
Mm-hmm.
one-on-one calls, and then we engage in like further support, right? Telling them or discussing some pain points, bottlenecks. Next, we do introductions to relevant ecosystem players in our network, and we also introduce them to our advisory network as well.
Okay. 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 Understandable. Um, so basically, it's more like handling the whole cycle of looking for founders as well as like rectifying who are a good fit.
Yeah,
Plus,
maybe in one sentence, you could say that I'm the first point of contact
exactly.
whenever there is an issue rising.
Right.
First point of contact when they need some kind of feedback, maybe on the pitch deck, maybe on outreach or marketing strategies. I help
Any
on
source.
all these fronts. Yeah,
Yeah. Any resource basically. So that you're like a resource manager also there.
yeah. So that's why actually my job is a very generalistic one, right? I have a
Yeah.
background
Agreed.
in social sciences, but I think in my position you need to be knowledgeable
Every front.
on
Yeah.
every front, right?
Correct.
I mean, it's very hard to become an expert in all of these things, right? You cannot be a legal expert, you cannot be a expert in marketing, but you should know the
Correct.
basics, I guess,
Basics. Right. Agreed.
to point them to further resources or to connect them
Mm-hmm.
to people who might provide additional value.
Correct. No, no, definitely. I totally agree with that. I somewhere feel if if founders also have that you know mentality of learning at least simple or basic elements of, let's say, each thing, let it be sales, marketing, and product, anything. It somewhere actually adds on to building their startup in a very fluent or very in a smooth manner. Okay. And but yeah, you were also I also asked it, that if someone is wanting to become a venture manager or is trying to join the VC community or become a venture capital start with their investment journey, then how should they go about it?
So how someone could enter the VC space, basically, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think there is no one single track that leads to entering the VC space or the investment space, right? I
Correct.
think what is maybe a good start. So if you already have founded something, then I think you can transfer lots of knowledge from your previous entrepreneurship step or stage or professional experience to the VC world as well, right?
Correct.
Um, I think other than this, you just need to show a track record of being very proactive, um, having helped people, being a great networker. I think the networking part is maybe a little
Correct.
bit mis misrepresented because it's maybe the top three important things that you need to do in venture capital.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about relationship management. You need to be at times a good negotiator. At times, you need to be a mediator when there
Right.
is someone who is a little bit angry with some kind of random terms. So, and you need to build relationship to uh, yeah investors, to LPs, to startups. So all sorts of things, right? So I guess if you are a self starter who is very open minded, who is outgoing and who
Mm-hmm.
can think fast and is ready to become a generalist, and at times work also a little bit late because of seasonality, then I think you already set a good ground on setting your first step into the VC world.
So, okay, like that definitely sounds very interesting and fascinating to me. Okay, but you tell me, what is that one thing that keeps you amazed, keeps you like very enthusiastic in working in the space? Like, I'll tell you, if I was at your position, my answer would be like, I love working with startups. I love analyzing new ideas, getting to know how different human brains work. Basically, like, if I give you a simple problem
Yeah,
and I give it two or three different people, right? Everyone might have a different way of execution, different way of solving the same problem, correct? So that way, I feel that is my answer to it. But what is your answer to that?
I think it's early stage startups and early stage startup founders in the Web3 space, which is, I think, maybe summarizing the key points that keeps me tiptoed and keeps me staying in the Web3 space, because I think Web3 is an area, is a sub area in, I think, tech, I
Yeah,
guess, but touches upon on many other things such as social dimensions, political, philosophical ones, right? And it's a space that moves super super fast. I mean,
correct.
2020 was DeFi summer, then 21 was NFTs, and then you had all these big boom and bust with 3AC, Terra Luna, FTX, stuff like that. So every
Yeah,
day when I open my Twitter, there is uh, some major news going on, right?
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. That's definitely there.
currently, I think one of the major narratives is the tokenization of reward assets. It's account
Yeah,
abstraction. It's zero knowledge technology. So every day there's something new popping up, and there's something new that keeps me really glued to the space. There's so
correct.
much new things to learn,
Exactly.
and
Yeah,
working with startups in this space, I think it's really amazing. Like, and especially since Brochifanos Group is a internationally focused VC, we get to talk to startups or to startup founders in all sorts of different regions with all sorts of different backgrounds. We're talking to lawyers, we're talking to serial entrepreneurs, we are talking to payment specialists who have worked for 10 years in fintech or at these kind of financial institutions. So the backgrounds is of the people is very diverse, not only in terms of like professional backgrounds, but also cultural backgrounds. So
correct.
this is really fun, I think,
Yeah,
and this also broadens my own horizon. I get to see different perspectives,
Right.
different approaches to building startups, even, right? I guess maybe in Korea, you often see that startup teams build the MVP prototype or product first and then launch it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think our approach is more like we do a little bit more upfront time investment in customer discovery and market validation, and then we try to build an MVP and validate the business model, right?
Correct.
So
Correct.
different approaches, different ways of thinking. So
Mm-hmm.
overall, this is what makes it very interesting to be working in Web3 and early stage startup investments.
Definitely, definitely, John. Like, I totally agree with you on that. But like, we're almost here at the last segment, okay, of our whole podcast. We have three questions which basically have come from the community itself, okay, and they would be around the topic that we have already discussed right now. So let's start with the first question. Okay, so what are the current trends in Web3 startup investment?
Oh yeah, I touch upon this quickly, I guess.
Yeah.
I think it's currently so the strong narratives are around account abstraction, so ERC 4337, which
Okay.
dramatically improves the user friendliness of decentralized applications. You can batch transactions, you can subsidize transactions, you can pay the gas fees for someone else, you can
Mm-hmm.
enable concepts such as smart contract wallets. With account abstraction, you can enable also fully on-chain gaming, right? So, and you can also create wallets with in conjunction with your social media accounts, such as Twitter or Google logins. So, I think
Mm-hmm.
this is the way going forward, and actually has been also one of the top two topics during ETH Global Tokyo. And the other one,
Oh,
besides account abstraction, was zero knowledge technology. I think
right.
this is especially interesting given that people are still concerned about anonymity and privacy, and I think this topic is really important, right? So
Mm-hmm.
because if you have zero knowledge technology, then you can build new use cases that touch upon reputation management, credibility, trust issues in Web3. So I think this is also a very big current trend that we are seeing in Web3. Also because privacy or identity management is an enabler for many Web3 applications, such as
Okay.
metaverse or gaming as well. And maybe what I'm also really bullish on is the tokenization of reward assets.
Right.
So I think this topic has been around for quite
Quite a
some
while. Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
actually, right?
Yeah.
So I think since the birth of Ethereum and the introduction of smart contracts, but really
Mm-hmm.
every time a big financial institution touched this topic, the products never went past the proof of concept stage, right? So everyone
Mm-hmm.
was talking about it, but it didn't really work out. But currently, what I'm seeing is a renaissance about tokenization of reward assets, because I think
Okay.
partly that we are seeing new legislations coming up. For instance,
Mm-hmm.
in Germany, in Switzerland, I think Hong Kong is opening up a little bit more. South Korea, these kind of jurisdictions have issued new legislation on the tokenization of securities, such as equity or
Right.
bonds, commercial papers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think this is becoming a very hot topic right now. And this is also actually
Mm-hmm.
where also a lot of brain power and money will flow into. And
Correct.
honestly, I feel also that bringing reward assets on chain would also decouple decentralized finance from speculation driven revenue. And that's something that we really need. Currently, I guess the majority of revenue that is made in DeFi is purely driven by speculation, and it's not tied
Right.
by reward assets. So I think this is a development that I would like to see going forward.
Correct. Correct. No, definitely. I somewhere feel that the whole part of linking the whole virtual world to the real world uh, possibly adds that trust value also, because most of the consumers around the world see how value addition is done, and many of them, like I would say majority of them do not trust that that these virtual assets are even worth a penny or something. And possibly connecting them with real world assets would definitely give an advantage to even the companies as well as to the consumers as well, because this would add a value of trust, this would add a value of transparency. And that's where I think if the trend is going towards that, I'm totally with you on the same.
Right.
And I guess that's something which the society and the community wants, so I guess it's very fruitful to go ahead in that direction as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Amazing. And okay, let's go ahead with the next question that we have. Okay, um, can we have it on screen? Yeah. So, what factors should investors consider when deciding whether to invest in Web3 startups? So, like, I guess we have already covered this through the BFG perspective, that what all factors basically BFG focuses on. But would you like to be more specific? Like, see, I'll tell you what. There's something which I have seen that let's take if even if a company agrees or check marks all the checkpoints that are there, there is this still one or to there is something that stops them from getting that investment. Okay, would you want to focus on at least 2 to 3 points or factors around that, that what are those 2 to 3 factors which investors really consider while the deciding if whether to invest or not?
Yeah, I think there are no really special factors that
Correct.
distinguishes Web3 investments to Web2 investments. I guess one could be around tokenomics, I guess, and cliff investing schedules. Maybe this could be one area, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I think other than this, it's just the usual things such as who are the founders?
Mm-hmm.
Are they even real people? Right? I mean, in Web3, you can also build very successful projects completely anonymously, right? With just having a smart contract wallet, having a wallet address as the representative of people, really, of the builders. Um, I
Right.
guess other than this, you would have to take the usual DD checkpoints, such as where has the startup been incorporated? Has it really been incorporated? Where can I see the certificate of incorporation, the
Mm-hmm.
shareholders
Mm-hmm.
agreement? Is there Are there who are other investors on the cap table? Um, these kind of things, right? And I think you always have to differentiate between early stage startups and later stage startups. When I would focus on early stage startups, I would also like to see that there is some kind of traction, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of like, are there any users, be it beta users, right? Is Do you have a wait list? How many people are there? Is it growing? How many people do you have on Twitter? How big is the Discord group when you are using Discord? So
Yeah.
how do you do community management, because this is really big? Do you have some sort of like MOUs or LOIs or strategic partnerships in place? Because
Correct.
these all point to like proof points that there is sufficient amount of interest or demand
Mm-hmm.
from the market. um yeah, I think these
I guess
are,
it
I
covers it
guess, the
all.
main
Yeah, yeah.
points.
It definitely does. It definitely does. But I somewhere think that these pointers are mostly which I feel somewhere there is always companies who bring up or get all of these points in place, but somewhere there are certain pointers which might or might not agree with them to get like into terms with getting that investment. But I guess it depends totally upon company to company and from market to market. And even like we spoke about it earlier, uh, 2021 was more about NFTs, and 2020 was more about the crypto trading market, things around that. So I guess with the change in market analysis, also the type of investments also change. Do you agree? Like, what
Yeah,
do you say?
Yeah, I agree. I think in the end, it also boils down to who you are talking to or in front of
Exactly.
who you are pitching to. I mean, there are different sorts of investor types, right? There are, on the one hand, maybe VCs, then there are angels, business angels who don't always have as thorough DD procedures such as big VCs. And some investors, they focus only on gaming, others only on DeFi
Right.
applications,
Yeah.
other focus on Web 2.5, other focus on fintech and payments. So it really depends also on who you are talking to as a startup founder.
Right. Right. Agreed. Okay. So JC, we have like the last question for today. Okay. And here it goes. What are the risks associated with investing in Web3? So I guess this is more coming from um, how you guys look at risk, how you guys basically do risk analysis. Okay, and probably then invest, and probably understanding if what are the metrics or tractions also in place you think or pre keep in mind before taking those risks. So
Yeah, I think risk is a inherent factor in entrepreneurship, right? I
yeah.
guess there are various statistics around, but usually people say that one or only two out of 10 startups make it long term. The rest will basically die
Yeah.
in a couple of years, go bankrupt, run out of money. Um, Founders will split up. They will not continue with with the startup. They will choose another career track, stuff like that, right? So risk
Correct.
is
Correct.
always part of the equation in investments, also especially in Web3. And I think I guess one major risk in Web3 is, especially with founder teams or teams that are like uh, not wanting to identify themselves, that they can do basically rug pulls, right? They can just go away with the
Mm-hmm.
money. Um, yeah, I guess this is, I think, one major risk. Other than this, I think the risk factors are very similar to Web2 investments.
Okay, okay, no worries. With that, JC, we have almost come to the end of our podcast today. It has already been, like almost an hour since we have been, exploring the world of investments with BFG, your ideologies, how, early stage investments and startups are more volatile, and how to say it, they basically have more spark in the initial phases because ideas are new, implementations are new, execution is new. So we have spoken about a lot of things here. What is that one take that that one moment that you want to take back from today, or something that you would want to say to the audience that they should take back from today's whole 1 hour podcast?
Yeah, I think it cycles back to the very beginning where we talked about like going to hackathons, going
Right.
to events, to conferences. I think I really want to I want to stress that, right? Also, just now, just today, our managing director Sarah Goldwald is at the Avalanche Summit in Barcelona, meeting with
Oh,
builders, meeting with community members, meeting with investors. So this is something that I really want to stress. I mean, it's
correct.
funny. It would be funny if I told you that there is a DeFi application founder who has never
Mm-hmm.
touched DeFi, who doesn't follow crypto Twitter, who doesn't read newsletters on the latest DeFi products, the latest, I don't know, derivatives or synthetics, DEX, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who doesn't talk to other builders in the space or who doesn't go to hackathons. I think this would be very funny,
Right.
right?
And yeah, this is an irony then. They won't be there into the space itself.
Yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, there's then too much of a gap between what you want to achieve and what you
Yeah.
currently represent. So, if you're on Web3, you should really embrace the community, talk to as
Mm-hmm.
many people as you want, because there is always someone who knows someone else that might provide some valuable feedback at the bare minimum, or who
Correct.
can provide some sort of bigger value to your startup. So,
Exactly.
community first.
Exactly, definitely. I totally agree with you on that. And with that, JC, it was amazing having you here. Okay, I am getting to know more, about how the whole, the investment space works, and that's where you come in. And it's definitely a great time to have you here. I have had a very distinct understanding around very various things of how usually investors also look into investing into startups. Correct, the risk that's involved, the check marks, the checkpoints that usually investors and VCs look into. I disagree on the fact that there's a distinguished factor between Web 2 and Web 3. I guess most of the things are usually same, only the technology changes, the ideology changes a little. Okay, but yes, totally, with that, thank you for coming today. I really had fun hosting you today.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. And if you come across any good founders with potential, right, early stage, then
I
let me know. I
definitely
will be happy to take a call.
Definitely, I actually already have gauged some of the founders in my mind. Okay, and I'll definitely recommend them to you. But with that, thanks a lot, JC, for coming in. I'll just
Perfect.
grab hold of you again just after like 2 5 minutes.
Perfect. Sounds good, Laksha. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, JC. Okay, so now is the time that we're trying to come to the end of the whole episode, where I feel I'm sure all of us had a fun and enlightening experience. And in today's masterclass, it was great to see how different perspectives came into place, how different understandings came into place regarding investments, how founders should look into what all has been going in the whole startup trends across 2023, and with that, how VCs and investors also look into the risk factors, the checkpoints, and some major pointers which you should keep in mind before applying to any accelerator or reaching out to the investors. With that, I'd like to thank JC and the Blockchain Founders team, group team, to basically who made this process very smooth. We just wrapped up this whole thing within an hour, and I feel we've got a lot of knowledge around this. I'd also like to remind you again that we have more than 200 plus jobs currently active on our product. Okay, and do log into that event, and you can go and directly apply to that. You can also claim NFT through our product. Okay, if you attend one of the events, so definitely go and definitely claim your POAP NFT. With that, thank you very much for joining in today. I am Lakshmittal signing off.